I had these four principles that I couldn't really shake, and they did come out of the book, which I'll talk about again in a moment. But my principle number one, which I think sounds obvious at the beginning, but I'm not so sure it is, and that is that obviously I'm going to keep him safe and protect him at all times, but that really has a focus on not abandoning him. That's really core, because like, as I mentioned, abandonment was a big theme in my life. So one of the great skills my wife has taught me over these last few months is that she always acknowledges him, she always smiles to him, she always lets him know that she's there, and it's something that I've started to replicate. And what I realized is that you can have your classic big abandonment, which is the father gets up and leaves the home, but you can have lots of small abandonments, which is you can be on your phone and not paying attention to your child, and they all add up. So I think being present is my number one, not abandoning him, but being very present to protect him. So that's my first principle. The second one that became a big theme for me in my own life was that whatever happens between us, wherever our life goes together, that I will always approach what I do from him from a point of kindness. Whatever it is, it's always, that will be the first principle of which I step forward from. I'm not a fan of tough love. I think that tough love has become a phrase for poor retrospective action that essentially wasn't thought out correctly, and it's just effectively a bad excuse for a bad strategy, is how I feel about a lot of tough love. I don't know if you've heard the phrase, honesty without compassion is brutality, and that's something I believe quite dear to my heart. And I think that tough love, when it's done badly, at best it's going to give you short-term sort of behavioural issues, which hopefully pass, but at worst, and I think I'm going to stick my neck out here, I think that tough love is abuse when it's done poorly, and I'm not a fan of it at all, Jonathan. So I always think actually that the good analogy here is probably almost the military in a way, is that if you join the military, you know that you're going to potentially join the theatre of war and could give the ultimate sacrifice. And the military is very tough at the beginning, but then you get through boot camp, and then it starts to train you, albeit tough, but in a very compassionate way for the things that you'll have to face. And I think that that's tough love done in a strategic way that empowers both the doer and receiver. It's where you could use a comparison of a conscription model. They drag you off the street, they give you a uniform, they give you a gun, they make you run up and down a hill to get you 10% fitter, and they say, oh, look, there's the enemy on the ridge. Good luck if you live, good bad luck if you don't. So I think kindness in everything I do is just paramount for a successful relationship with my son. So that's kind of my second principle. My third one, which again my parents didn't do to me, is that I will support him whatever he does. And for example, the best example for me is that I like to swim, I like to be in the water. I took him swimming at 3 months, and I hope that we can have hours of fun, surfing, being in a boat, whatever, something to do with being in the sea or certainly in the water. But if he hates it and wants to go cycling or walking or whatever it is he wants to get into, football, then that's absolutely, that's fine. That's what I do. I won't force him to do something that is not him, which again was the opposite really of what happened to me. My fourth principle really, which my wife doesn't necessarily agree with, is that I feel like I rent him. He's an independent person. He owes me nothing. I owe him everything. And I want to ensure that he can operate in the world socially and financially, and that he has a positive impact on the people around him, and that one day, I hope we have a great childhood together, but that he will leave the home one day, and I should never forget that. I should make sure that he's equipped for the world that he has to go into, which comes back to the emotional intelligence that we were talking about earlier. And I don't know where they came from, but I couldn't shake them from my mind.